Hello everybody, this is the video channel of SDK, Schutzgemeinschaft der Kapitalanleger. My name is Mark Liebscher. SDK is one of the leading association for the protection of retail investors in Germany, and today we have a very interesting interview part of Fraser Paring, well-known short seller from Viceroy. Today we will talk about the Adler Group SR, and please keep in mind any opinion that is mentioned here and brought forward by Fraser Paring is his own opinion. It's not the opinion of SDK. This is a pure journalistic interview, and we are not giving any opinion of SDK on financial instruments, on Adler, or on anything else. We are also not giving any financial advice if to invest or de-invest in any share, especially not regarding Adler shares. And in addition, please do your own research. Go search for the KPMG report on Adler, go search for the Viceroy report on Adler, and make up your own mind, make up your own research, and look for proofs and clues. And finally, last but not least, it would be good if you subscribe to our channel. And now have fun with the interview. Thank you so much. Hello everybody, this is Schutzgemeinschaft der Kapitalanleger, SDK, our video channel. Schutzgemeinschaft der Kapitalanleger, SDK, is one of the two leading associations for the protection of retail investors in Germany. And we are very, very happy to have a special guest today regarding Adler Group SR, Fraser Paring, head of Viceroy. Fraser, so great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, Mark.
Fraser, let's get right into it. Adler, German real estate company, in heavy criticism from Viceroy, and I think all of our watchers are in the loop about what is happening. So the first question to you: how did you choose Adler, or did Adler choose you? How did you come across Adler?
Well, we came across Adler initially. I think it was March 2021. Where we'd read some articles. I think Melanie Bergerman from WeWo had covered her. And people kept on asking us about a company called Corestate, I believe it was, as well. And then when I think we'd just finished a project on Grenke AG. And we're looking through it, and it's like, this looks a bit dodgy. And the more we dug, the complicit nature of who was actually running Adler became very clear, and it just becomes appealing. It's almost like an addictive drug, because when you see one bad bit, because all companies, I would say, have some bad issues, but when you start piling them up and they just keep on going up, then you know you're onto something. And Adler was one of them. So
was one of them. Then almost half a year ago, the first Viceroy report that was widely recognized by the market, and then in the following, Adler ordered KPMG to have a special investigation into the company, and the KPMG report came out on Friday.
Yes,
and I'm sure you had a close look on the KPMG report, and they were in detail addressing the allegations that you brought forward in your Viceroy report. And actually, one could say the KPMG report was a detailed answer to the Viceroy allegations. So I think it would be good to have a closer look at the KPMG report. So to start into that, what is your summary regarding the KPMG report? What do you make of it after going through it and seeing the reaction?
I think my laugh says it all. I have never seen such hogwash said by the chairman of a company, and I'm being polite there. It was identical to Wirecard in terms of statements made or that they used to justify exoneration. And admittedly, because we only use public information, Viceroy only ever use public information, so we aren't involved in insider dealing and this and that. We can only make assumptions and beliefs based on the information we have. So I would say we got 90-95% accurate based on what KPMG have said. Of course, there's things that evaluations, there are beliefs, and they still haven't come to light yet. And so the overall thing, where the chairman is purposely misleading the market and saying they're exonerated, is a joke. And exclusively, we can reveal that you shouldn't trust the chairman, in our belief, right? There's so
how that
right. So the chairman, Kirsten, if you have a look on their website, so don't take our word for it. We at Viceroy are really simple. Don't take our word for it. Don't believe your ears, believe your own eyes. So if listeners want to go to the Adler website, and we've backed it up, so they can't change this now because they're changing a lot of things. You can't access the Consus development website properly. They've changed the KPMG report 3 times without disclosing what the changes are. So, but we're aware of that. But if you go to the Adler Group website, click on management, go down to supervisory board, you'll see Kirsten there. And there's a long parade of what he's done. Vonovia, some form of anti-corruption group, which is a joke. You go on his LinkedIn site, and we've backed this up as well, so he can't change it. He can change it if he wants, but we can prove, based on the information, we have reason to believe these statements. On his LinkedIn, Adler Group Management Spiel, where they wrote it all, his introduction to Adler, it omits one key detail. Vivian.
What does it omit?
Vivian Investment SARL. Right? He was on the supervisory board, and you'll say, an investor, so what? Yeah, we all don't list everywhere we've worked. But this is a key detail. And the key detail is Vivian Investments sold to Adler Real Estate, Addo Group, which involves Consus. And they should, they factually should have disclosed that he was formerly involved with the Diane family. Vivian is owned by the Diane family. There's enough out there. Simple research will show you there is a key connection. And he didn't leave in bad taste. He didn't resign because of accounting scandals or anything like that. They thanked him for his good service and things like that. So when you
Fraser, to summarize that, you are saying that Kirsten, who is responsible for this press statement Friday that was, well, said that the KPMG report was an exoneration, you're saying that Mr. Kirsten, via Vivian Investment, has ties to another company and to the Diane family.
Yeah.
And that brings him back to Kana and his
and the Adler Group.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm 100% saying that. And he might say, well, he wasn't involved in that process. He still worked for Vivian. Vivian sold property to Aggregate, which Adler own bonds in that have crashed. And on top of that, Aggregate owned a lot of stock in Adler. It's a complete, what we call a circle jerk. All of them are in it. So, because we couldn't work it out, like we knew it, but we weren't aware that the entire market wasn't aware. It's public data. You go on the Vivian website, you see Dr. Kirsten resigns, thanks for your good service, on the 22nd of February or whenever it is, 16th of February. And then you see him join Adler on the 22nd. But nowhere does it mention he worked for Vivian. So does it mention on the Adler website, where all the management show off, what they've done in the past and why they're at Adler Group, no mention of Vivian. Bloomberg terminal. So if you look on your Bloomberg terminal, it has a list of all where he's worked. But what's missing? Vivian. Now, and then you go on LinkedIn, he has 22 experiences. So you would say, you could argue with me, Mark. You could say, well, he maybe doesn't update his LinkedIn all the time.
Yeah, he's forgotten it or something, yeah?
Right. But he updated his LinkedIn on or after the 22nd of February 2020 with his appointment to chairman of Adler Group.
So that was just a couple of days after he resigned from the advisory board of Vivian.
Yeah, but so where's the mention of Vivian? Still not there. So we've backed all this up. The relevance to this is, and the key point is, he is systematically conflicted in anything that Adler does. His job is to protect a regime that factually looted and did not cooperate with KPMG. And that,
Fraser, that is a major allegation here. That's a major allegation here, because so far your allegations were always directed towards Kana and the people surrounded with Kana. And you and the market had the perception, more or less, or the market had the perception that Kirsten was somebody new, somebody fresh, somebody transparent with no history, and that he would stand for transparency and clearing up the mess and transparent capital markets communication. So that's a major allegation you're bringing forward here.
Yeah, factually, and he can't even deny it. It's there. You can just go on the Vivian website. So vion.eu website, and look, you'll see Dr. Kirsten resigns. And he can say, but I wasn't there when negotiations started of selling Adler Group. Right? We know factually that all the parties involved have enriched themselves at the cost of independent shareholders. And the problem they've got is that even Kirsten, as a chairman, shouldn't actually be there. Management, shockingly, they prefer to say they've been exonerated, that admit they've done wrong, and publish a list of which management have been fired, because their lack of cooperation implies that there's criminal issues. Because how can you have withheld by a company 1 in 5 emails that are allegedly of legal privilege?
Fraser, let's go. I think that's a good idea. That's a good point you're bringing up here. Let's go into the KPMG report.
Yeah.
And the issue of the emails that you just brought up. Kirsten said he had an investor call, Kirsten, on Friday.
Yeah.
And he said in this investor call, just let me give you the exact wording. He said KPMG had a very broad mandate and that they gave carte blanche to KPMG. What do you make of that?
Well, that's 100% accurate. They did give carte blanche wherever they wanted to cooperate. Yeah, but wherever they didn't,
whenever they wanted to cooperate. Yeah, that's a good disclaimer you're bringing in here.
Yeah, right. So I've never heard so much tosh in all my life. Absolute dribble. If they gave carte blanche, why didn't they? Specifically, he said they withheld documents that they didn't want to provide and were legally privileged. They didn't want to give bank statements, right, because they didn't want to. And they didn't want to give original deal documents. Now, these are key because our key allegations were they basically looted. And they're bond villains. And we maintain that to this day. Kana filed a criminal complaint against us because of we were criminals. But unfortunately, due to his denials now, he's likely going to have a criminal complaint filed by us because we can prove his involvement. The man who...
Yeah, Fraser. Okay, Fraser. Sorry for interrupting, but I really would like to go to the different parts of the KPMG report. So the next part is that the related parties. There it was quite interesting that KPMG had a lot of circumstances and facts showing that what are the dealings between the parties, family relations, being shareholders in different companies. And that was quite interesting. Kirsten said, well, unfortunately, KPMG took your definition of a related party, which is a broader definition, Kirsten said. And you didn't take the narrow legal, KPMG and you didn't use the narrow legal definition of the International Accounting Standards number 24. So a deviation in the understanding what is a related party. And obviously KPMG took your definition of a related party here.
Because our definition of a related party is accurate. How can your wife and your brother-in-law and your brother and your long-term business partner not be a related party? what Adler's defense was, or justification, is so childish and amateurish. Even Wirecard did better, because at least they lied with some justification. The man factually cursed in statements about the related parties. The International Accounting Standards actually requires family relationships to be disclosed. I'm going to bore people for 2 seconds. The reason why related parties are so important is if I'm dealing with my sister, my brother, my dad, there's an odds are that we're all in it together, what we call a cabal. Yeah. So I'm going to give them better terms. So any related party, like when you go out for a meal with one of your family members, you might choose to pay for it that time. Yeah, but you know why? It's because you're all of the same kin. And that's why you have to disclose related parties. And Kirsten is intellectually challenged if he believes that you shouldn't disclose that your brother-in-law has been ripping off the company. You're on mute. Mark, you're on mute.
Sorry here. Let's move on. The following question was, is Mr. Kahner somebody who is a decision maker without a mandate? And interestingly, I find in the KPMG report there are a lot of hints, aren't there?
They even go as far to say as much, I think, in one stage about they couldn't disprove. And the emails, right, so they quote some of the, remember, the Austrian Takeover Commission investigated Kahner in 2016. And they came to the same conclusion we did. And Mr. Kahner and Adler lied through their teeth about who was the main controller, the main principal. You can see it in the emails. And they specifically stated or quoted certain emails where they said external 7 is Kevdeg Kahner. There's no rocket science degree here required to work out the extern 7 is Kahner. We're working on the rest.
Yeah, that is quite easy to conceive.
Yeah. And he's saying that people have to change all their agendas and be at this meeting and do this and do that, and things are unacceptable. That's
he's giving orders to the management, to the top management. His secretary is giving orders to the top management of Adler.
Yeah, the boss, the kingpin. Yeah. He's looted. He's taken payments, and this is key within the report. He's taken payments that have been designated as interest income, and that's to hide it from the auditors. And the reason that you would hide it from the auditors is to know that major questions would be asked about why you're paying Kevdeg Kahner, what was it, up to 20 million US, but allegedly involved.
Fraser, let me confront you with what Kirsten said on that. He said the allegations here regarding these fees are not confirmed, that these were success fees. And for sure, not any hourly fee sheets were necessary. And he called that customary rules amongst listed companies, and that's absolute fine. And no influence of Kahner was proved. What do you make of this?
If Kirsten actually gives a date out now, you should go away and check your own calendar, because the man clearly can't believe that. Unless, as we stated, he's complicit in this, i.e. work for Vivid. There's no other reason why you would be saying such stupidity. The man to state that these are perfectly normal. So let's quote KPMG. They stated, from memory, give me a second, I'm just trying to recall it. Right, they stated that there were no worksheets or evidence of the consultancy services required to make these large payments.
For our German listeners, keine Leistungsnachweise konnten gefunden werden. Yeah.
So
and they stated that several times, and even BaFin was informed about that. But when it's a success fee, Fraser, when it is a success fee, you don't need any documents. You do not have to write any reports. It's just a success fee, right?
Well, no, yeah.
That is
unless you're looting shareholders. You need evidence of what worked, and you need to justify the benefit to the company. And so far, the benefit has been they've bought overpriced assets, and they can't even. And an example of that is Consus, right? And this isn't in the report, and disgustingly, it's not in the report. The first part is that all developments have ceased in Consus almost since the takeover. So where's the success fee? Where's the success? Why would you pay a fee? Second part, they specifically on page 112, sorry, I've got a brain like that. On 112, they state that they didn't assess the secured and unsecured lending ratios, which to me means that there's a bucket load of undisclosed debt. Right? And we know that because people are reaching out to us that were meant to be jointly developing some of the Consus projects, and they're in dispute with them now. But we also know, so this is KevDed. KevDed Kana has recommended as part of the success rate, he's been paid on the basis that they bought a company with, give or take, I think it was 200 million of debts that are still outstanding. But amazingly, KevDed Kana knows the Dayan family. And you'll say, where's the proof of that? In the report. It specifically states he knows the shareholders of the Addo Group. Who was the Addo Group? It was the Dayan family, Vivian Group.
Okay, and that would bring you back where we started, Kirsten, Dayan family, and Kana.
So there's no success. Basically, what they were doing was on any deal, they wanted to strip out some cash because the deals were so bad. Yeah.
Okay.
And in some of those deals, you even had the CEO, one of the joint CEOs, receiving a payment. Yeah, hang on, wait there. He's paid already. That pay has been decided by Kana. He specifically put to decide the pay. It's in the report.
It's an extra payment, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Fraser, just to keep ourselves focused, evaluation. Yeah, there's so much to it. We have to, and I like your energy on that. But we both have to focus our energy. Pages 97 to 108, evaluation.
Yeah.
There are two portfolios you looked at, KPMG looked at. That's the residential real estate portfolio, and that's the project portfolio.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Kirsten stated that in his call. There's a difference between KPMG and Kirsten Adler, how they see how the balance sheet should be corrected or not. Kirsten holds no correction of the balance sheet is necessary regarding evaluation, and KPMG sees that differently and says, well, correction of the balance sheet regarding evaluation is necessary. So we have the two portfolios, residential and project.
Yeah.
Project development. And Kristen says, well, our evaluation regarding residential is rock solid. I quote here, rock solid. What do you make of that? Is it rock solid after KPMG?
No, because they even discuss in the KPMG report where they sold some projects that they reduced by 200 million. Yeah. So first of all, there's a contradiction there. But secondly, right, if Adler were correct and these valuations and the statements were correct, why is it that he's come from Addo Group? And this is key to the valuation. Remember this. He hasn't come from Addo Group. Let's correct that. He's come from Vivian. And the family that owned Vivian sold Addo Group to Adler Real Estate. That's how the entity merged. So that's how it came together. And he cannot change that valuation because that's based on what they bought it at. Because if he does, in other words, he's saying that his former boss sold overpriced assets that they booked a 95 million gain on in months to Adler Real Estate. So we got contradictions left and right. This man has chosen a hill. It's almost like he's gone and become chairman of Chief Fraud PLC, where everyone's lying and not cooperating, And he hasn't decided to go, guys, this is really bad. Everyone reading this report. So I've had, ironically, 18-year-olds that are doing economics degrees in Dusseldorf reach out and going, excuse the phrase, but this company is screwed, right? And they've read the report, right? That's an 18-year-old, right? So let's assume we're a bit more intelligent, right? In what way can Kirsten not say that this report is so damning, all the senior management should be held liable for losses? He should have come out and said, this is really wrong, and he can't, and we've already proven why he can't and why we believe he can't. But the valuations, more importantly, they're impaired further because at no point during that KPMG report does it discuss that 19 projects, 19 of them, haven't had any development and have debts outstanding on them, significant unsecured debts that aren't disclosed in the balance sheet within the reports. And he's saying, but it's not terminal. What part of not?
Yeah, he's saying that it's still pending and future can show that we will make huge value.
He's so far down in the sewer with these guys that he can't even see the wood for the trees. The essence of where he's at, and Kirsten, there is no differentiation now between Kirsten and all the other management. He is completely complicit. And the biggest problem.
Okay, I hear Fraser. Fraser, will you provide a written report on that? What you stated here?
Yeah, without a doubt. It's just being edited at the moment because I'm a great researcher. I'm not the best writer, and between us all, we get there in Viceroy. I make no bones about it. But research-wise, no one can dispute that Kirsten was at Vivian, employed on the supervisory board. No one can dispute that Vivian's owners, Diane, sold Addo Group to Adler Real Estate. And no one can dispute that Kana and Diane don't know each other. There's a full circle here. It's called a circle jerk. Kirsten needs investigating for his involvement prior to attending Adler as the chairman, right? But more importantly, where the hell? So far, we've identified 84, I think it is, serious points within the report. Where the hell are BaFin and the prosecutors? Right? Because
well, it's quite interesting. It was, now I can show off a little bit. It was page 35, where KPMG stated that Adler informed BaFin on the issue that Kana was receiving payments without any proof that he did something, without any Leistungsnachweise. And I had the feeling KPMG just gave a little bump on the nose of BaFin there on page 35 at the bottom.
Well, unfortunately for Adler, we had a call with BaFin before we published.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so half a year ago.
Yeah, give or take. I think it was August, September. Yeah. Could be wrong. But we definitely had a call pre-publication. And within it, we highlighted all these issues. But they still appear to have not acted. And I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And I hope they're doing something. I'm pretty sure they are.
We don't know either.
But importantly, Kana, for 4 whole years, till we came along, denied to all the press that he ran the show at Adler. Despite...
Yeah, he did that with Melanie Bergermann. I remember at the Vivo, he told Melanie Bergermann, I have nothing to do whatsoever with Adler. And then later on he said, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And now it shows that he's kind of running the show behind the scenes a little bit.
But I don't know about German law, but I know that this has been marketed in other jurisdictions, which means, has he fallen foul of certain laws? Now, is he going to leave Monaco again soon? If anyone knows where he's going to be, please let me know, because I wish to file locally on him wherever he is. The French authorities are already getting a copy of the KPMG report, which, contrary to French rule, means that he has failed to disclose his authority to conduct business for a business. Right?
Okay. Fraser, now you're already looking forward a little bit in the future. What do you think what will happen in the future?
Well,
Not only regarding the share price, I think we know what your position is on the share price.
right. Firstly, the future, we've got, is it 4 days? And then they're announcing the report on the 30th. The annual report.
30th, yeah.
Yeah, are you ready for this? The first time in German history, to my knowledge, a listed company is elected to publish its annual report on the weekend. And you'll say, because that's the very last date before they would be excluded from the SDAX. That's justifiable, I get that. So let's give them credit for that. But it also, in my mind, we're going to hear all sorts of bullcrap about why there's this. If a man thinks that they've been vindicated and exonerated with that report, he shouldn't be in business. Anyone doing business with them should make sure cash is up front. We know factually that allegedly, and no, not allegedly, factually, the chairman states, what was it? We have plenty of cash. Yeah. But just 2 minutes later, in the same conference call, he states we couldn't afford to pay KPMG Forensics anymore. So which is it? Just within a 2-minute phrase. But they haven't paid suppliers.
Well, the KPMG report was quite expensive. After all, with all the advisors and legal advisors, they paid 6 million euros. I think that's quite an investment, isn't it?
Well, for me it is. Yeah, they did my work for me. But importantly, within that, they could have saved a bucket load by cooperating. Right? They're saying this was really expensive. You come to a really good point. Do you know if they'd have put their hands up, the CEO, and said, I received a bent payment from a success fee, and that Kana ran the show, right? Okay, there would have to be an investigation, but they have purposely run up the meter at the expense of all the innocent independent investors. That's fraud. That is factual fraud. If they'd have come forward and gone, look, guys, Viceroy Quartus, we're in the shit. Yeah. The stock would have created, new management would have been put in. Kirsten wouldn't have even been there because he shouldn't have been there. He is already complicit by his previous experience. And new management would have gone, look, guys, it's really bad, but I think there's a future. With all that management involved, I wouldn't even trust them to sign a check.
Okay.
And so the future, we got the annual report due, where we've got a few valuation gaps, I think Kirsten called it. Here's a thought for you. And let's go back to corporate law, German corporate law. And don't forget Luxembourg, right? KPMG Forensics did the report. Tick.
KPMG does the auditing.
KPMG does the auditing. Now, you're auditing me. And so say you're auditing me. And say the sound guy, Paul, he's auditing me from a forensic level because I'm a crook. And I haven't cooperated with Paul, the sound guy. So just picture this, your listeners, just picture it. Because this is material to what's going to happen next. Really material. The future is this. So me, but picture my head as an eagle, otherwise known as Adler. Right? And then the sound guy is the forensics. And he's investigated me and I've gone, you know what, Paul? I'm not going to give you 800,000 emails because it's looking really bad. Right? And by the way, we've made some real dodgy deals and we haven't cooperated with you. And screw you. You know, you can have only what we allow you to have. Now, you, Mark, as the auditor, how the hell, even if you use qualified opinion, how are you going to sign off on that?
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how KPMG can come up with an unqualified opinion on the weekend.
That's gone. If there's an unqualified opinion, someone at KPMG is likely going to prison. We know that, right? So let's firmly take the unqualified opinion. How can you qualify, right? Are you ready for this? How can you qualify, because you're the auditor. Paul's the guy that's been getting into the crux of the details. I've not been cooperating. So how is you as the auditor? Now, you'll say, Fraser, I don't know all the audit laws, so I wouldn't know that. That's fair enough. But you do know common sense, and investors know this as well. If I haven't cooperated with Paul, the sound guy, and have withheld only 800,000 emails, only, 1 in 4 emails out of Adler are allegedly legally privileged. I've heard some crap in my time, and that's near the top, right? And then you're coming along and going, hey, let's check processes and internal controls. And you have to sign off.
Risk management.
Yeah, you've got to sign off. You, the auditor, right? So you know nothing about, and I'm sure you do, but if you knew nothing about audit law, you wouldn't even sign it with Kirsten's pen. And the reason why you won't sign it with Kirsten's pen is you have factually got no confidence in what they provided to you is A, accurate, B, the whole story, or C, likely to be representative of the health of the business. Because they're all...
Yeah, that is kind of, it brings us back to Wirecard and EY. KPMG will have to ask themselves the questions, are we auditing and signing off on the financial statements into the blue? That's what we call it in Germany. Yeah. You're not allowed as an auditor to sign off into the blue, knowing I haven't audited material stuff and material balance sheet positions and still signing off on the accounts. So that is the question KPMG will have to ask itself. And after the Wirecard experiences and the discussions that we had in Germany regarding what are the provisions for auditors and what are the regulations and what are the requirements for auditors when auditing and not auditing into the blue, I think KPMG will have to ask themselves some questions here. Yeah?
It's not just ask some questions. The simple question for investors is, can KPMG, and they might well decide to jump off the cliff with Kirsten. I would be very concerned if KPMG sign. Firstly, we know that they can't give an unqualified opinion based on that report. That's guaranteed. That's my view. And I know enough about scheming and scamming companies to know that KPMG know that. But the question is, can they sign off with a qualified opinion? Now, based on what they're saying, they can't provide documents to KPMG Forensics. Remember, let's quote Kirsten exactly. And in the report, I think it was page 119-ish, where he says, or not he, KPMG said, because we weren't an approved legal advisor. Kirsten said, because they weren't a qualified lawyer or something like that. But you get the idea, because they aren't a lawyer, right? You're on mute again, Mark.
Sorry here. Yeah, he said because attorney-client privilege that doesn't apply to KPMG Forensics.
Yeah, of course, because that's a real good opt-out, right? So we've got 800,000 emails. Adler, so we spoke to someone that used to work at Vivian. Now, bear with me a sec, right? We spoke to someone that used to work at Vivian about how many emails were legally privileged. They were there 2.5 years ago, something like that. And their view was there were very few emails that went to legal. It was mainly about the structure of a deal. And it would be done specific to teams. Right? All of a sudden, so I said, was 800,000 realistic? They said they didn't know, but they thought it was obscene, the number of emails. I think personally, Adler have gone, this is my personal view, and I haven't got evidence to show this, but what they've written implies it to me. So they've got 4 million emails, 3.8, whatever you want to call it, and they've gone, these 800,000 are going to screw us. They aren't having them. And they're legally privileged because they'll incriminate us. It's my view. And because I'm not being funny at this stage, if you're saying that your company has been exonerated and your name's Stefan Kirsten, you're in La La Land. You are completely... So the future, just for a recap, is KPMG are now, of course, trying to swallow a brick, and that brick's their own KPMG forensics report. Now, if I was
that will be interesting to see how they get around.
Here's my prediction: no matter how aggressive Adler are on KPMG and what they yield in terms of qualified opinion, the problem they get to, and this is the legal stance, is if the qualified opinion would be such that it would normally equate to them refusing to sign, they might screw themselves. So if they gave a whole list of the reasons why not cooperating with an investigation, not doing this, no records, belatedly handwritten notes, no worksheets of major payments hidden as interest income, purchasing,
the accounts, the balance,
everything,
accounts.
Right? If they get to that point, they should not sign off. So here's my personal prediction, and I'll tell you what Viceroy think. Right? So my personal opinion is that KPMG auditors cannot sign off due to the lack of cooperation with the KPMG forensics. And assume there's a Chinese wall, and the information in the KPMG report is so damning that, in my view, if KPMG do try to sign off but give such a big small print to it, qualified opinion, that it would have otherwise been classed as not signing off, they might be legally liable anyway, because it's not a going concern, as it says. Because if you do something wrong in your workplace, you have to cooperate. Ask anyone on the street, has Adler cooperated? And they go, are you having a laugh? There we are. And Viceroy's opinion is, right, so that's my opinion, Gabe and I, who think for themselves. Gabe thinks that it's going to be so lengthy, the qualified opinion, they might just about do it, but they're still screwed.
They're still screwed.
Okay,
that's an interesting outlook. That's an interesting outlook, and I think there are some arguments to the question how KPMG now will react with its audit opinion. Fraser, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's been a hellish ride for the last almost 45 minutes. Thank you for that so much, for your insights, and we are very on our edges to see what will come up in the following days, and to see what other hints and facts Viceroy can and will provide. Thank you so much for your interpretation of the KPMG report.
You're welcome.
And for your interpretation of Kirsten's statements. And we will see on the 30th of April what the audited, qualified, unqualified KPMG opinion looks like.
Or not what the opinion looks like.
It will look, somehow it will look, it have a look.
It's good. It's really good.
Fraser, thank you so much. All the best to London.
Thank you.
And see you.
Cheers.
So this was our interview with Fraser Paring. Many thanks to him. As said before, please keep in mind this interview showed the opinion of Fraser Paring and Viceroy, not the opinion of SDK. Any assessment, any opinion that Fraser Paring issued and came forward with in this interview are of him and not of the SDK. Please keep in mind, we are not giving any advice on financial investments. We are not giving any advice if to invest or de-invest in any share, especially not regarding the Adler shares. Please do your own research. See and check for the KPMG report. See and check for the Viceroy report. Read it through, go it through, and make your own opinion. We are not giving any advice here. Thank you so much and keep in touch.